Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Top Flight Pod. You know what it is, you know what we're here to do. We're back on stream today. Beautiful Austin, Texas. The weather is nice. It's kind of breezy. The clouds were out. We were wondering if the rain was going to come down or not. This is the weather that they wanted Austin FC to be playing moving forward. I'm excited to be here chatting about this new schedule that Austin FC got. Of course, everybody in MLS. We're going to be talking about the international call-ups, got some media cup game roster news that we're going to discuss, and I had to invite my G Scott, the writer for We're Austin TV. Check him out on Substack. Follow him there. Follow We're Austin TV on that platform. But Scotty, welcome to the pod. Welcome to the show. How are you doing? Thank you for being here.
Anytime. No, it's good. I wish that you were talking about the Austin weather. I wish it was a little bit cooler out. I enjoyed that few days of false fall that we
I
had
got
when
the
it got
long
down kind of
sleeve.
cold.
I got the long sleeve.
Man, it was 80 something today. We're at record highs right now. That no, you cannot be doing long sleeves right now unless do you have your AC at 65 or something?
It's chilly in here, I would say.
Okay.
I would say.
Cool.
I'll say. But no, yes, man, we're going to talk about, of course, the weather, the new MLS schedule, how those things tie in together down here in the South in Texas. And, of course, a lot of fun topics here on today's show. No games for Austin FC to go off of, but there's international talk. There's, like I said, some stuff coming out of MLS. Don Garber maybe getting the boot, getting the shoe. They're preparing to let him go. And then footy and politics crossover. We'll talk about Ronaldo visiting the White House there at the end of the EP. But before we get into it, shout out to the Patreon members. Shout out to the folks on Discord. The conversation keeps going there. Right now, they're talking about apparently this tweet, Scott, that just came out. Austin FC drops a very interesting message saying that the 2026 schedule will be coming soon. What does soon mean, Scott, to you? Is it tomorrow? Is it Friday? Is it maybe on the weekend? Before we get into some other things, what does this tweet mean to you, mate?
It sounds to me like we're getting it before the playoffs end, at the very least. I'm not sure if that's tomorrow or before the weekend, but I don't know why you'd tease that when normally we don't get a schedule release until middle of December. I want to say it was December 17th last year. There's no reason to post a tweet about the schedule in a month at all. So, I mean, maybe we're getting it tomorrow or today if you're listening to it on November 20th. I mean, I'm excited to see the schedule, to be honest. There's a lot of teams that we haven't played yet that are fun away days. Everybody's been holding out hope for Chicago to finally play them in MLS play. But I don't know. I mean, I'd wait to plan all of my vacations and trips until I find out the schedule. So this will help me get a jump start on 2026 travel.
Club president Andy Loughnane did mention that he looks forward to finally playing Chicago soon, hopefully. He was talking about 2027, so I'm not saying 2026. And he cracked a little bit of a joke. He said maybe in their new stadium they'll have heated seats. I don't know. I think he does know. He might have the blueprints at his house of this new stadium. But we'll see when we get this new schedule. I'm very excited. I have no inside information, unfortunately, on what matches we might be getting, but there is a user on our Discord. I will not say who, but this person knows a lot actually, and it's kind of scary. But they said that there's going to be some fun matchups next year. Does that mean Inter Miami? Does that mean Columbus at Columbus? What does this mean? We'll see what happens. I'd like to go to Cincinnati Stadium. I'm not going to lie. I'd love to check that out. I got to cross off Minnesota United Stadium off my bucket list, and it was great. Got to see the Wonder Wall and CJ Fodry's, last second goal in the US Open Cup semifinal. But I'd like to go to Cincinnati. One stadium you would like to go to, Scott, in 2026?
I do want to go to BC Place up in Vancouver. That's been on my list for a while. I feel like we always get them at a weird time or midweek. I went to Cincinnati last season. Beautiful stadium. Really fun area all around the park. You can really make a day of it walking around, seeing all there's to see in there downtown. Chicago would be great, not necessarily for the stadium, but for the experience of visiting the city would be great. I'm not as interested in going to Miami, but if they play here, that'd be fun. I think the last time we played them was down in Fort Lauderdale, so that makes sense that they came here next year.
Now, I think everybody obviously wants to play Miami because of the friends, the Miami boys, the Lil Messis. It might look a little bit different. There are some players that are going to retire there soon from that group, but Of course, it is the big sale. It is the money match in MLS. I mean, it is what it is. The scalpers come alive, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what soon means for the Austin FC admin and the communications department. When will we get this schedule? I think kind of early. I don't know, Scott. Feels a little bit early for me, but I'm excited to obviously, kind of dissect it, go over it, and see what stretches are going to be difficult for Austin FC. Another thing we're waiting for still, Scott, and that might be very, very soon. I think this will be tomorrow. I'm predicting, well, actually not tomorrow, either Thursday or Friday when everybody is distracted. They did that last year. But I think the options come out before this weekend. The option decisions come out before this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they have to be out by the 25th, I want to say.
Think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you're
It's
right.
it's somewhere around there. But yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see those. And I would love for them to be sooner rather than later, just so we can have a better idea of who's coming and who's going. I think Austin has a lot of big decisions to make,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to like some of their buyout plans of like clearing out some GAM and trying to just like free up resources that Austin just never really seems to have enough of. And so that can give us some good insight into hopefully the players that'll be coming in the offseason.
Definitely, mate. Now, of course, I think a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen to Cascante, what's going to happen to Ilie Sánchez, Stefan Cleveland, Dani Pereira, big names on that list. Just like you said, mate, there are some important decisions to be made. As for Rodo Borrell, as for Nico Esteves to maybe offer some insight or whatnot. But whoever is in that war room, you better make the right decision, mate. 2026 is honestly depending on it. But all right, let's get into a very important topic that was actually pushed up to the top of the list for tonight's show. It is something that has social media by the neck. It is something that has the world talking, Scott. I'm talking about the 2025 Media Cup rosters. They have officially been released, mate. We have team what is this? We have team Listos United against Team Verde FC. Now, some hard-hitting names on this list. This is a very interesting call-up for both sides. And check this out. Listos United counts with Tom Miller. I believe he works with the news station. We have Moises Chuyan, Verde All Day Substack, working with Phil West. You know who he is. Massimo works with the club. I believe he's the admin, if I'm not mistaken, for some social media platforms, or used to be, but I know he works for the club. Bob Balu, big man in the box. Do not sleep on this guy. I got to play against him last season. He is a baller on the field. He is going to be probably somebody to look out for, a target man in this match. And I do not sleep on this guy. Do not sleep on this guy. Next person on this team is Michelle Sanchez. Shout out to Michelle. She will be there. MLS Espanol. Shout out to her on the come up. You got Ryan Madden of the communications department. He is also another baller. People got to watch out for these guys that played college ball and they are now either dads or, they're just chilling, but they are good. Do not sleep on these people. You have Gustavo Martinez from Hispanos ATX. Shout out to my G Gustavo. Levon Whitaker. Don't know who this gentleman is, but probably news station. Jimmy Moss from the podcast. What's it called? The Vamos Verde podcast. Also co-hosted with Juan Garcia. You have Alex Sanabria, football critic. We're Austin TV. Everybody knows Alex. He is against me again this year. Nick Bannon, my weatherman. He is going to be there. Diego Valencia from We're Austin TV and Espanol. He will be against me, but teammate with Alex Sanabria. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, Landon Cottham of Moon Tower Soccer. Low-key had some good distribution last year. Low-key he did. I got to give him credit on that. So keep an eye out for Listos United. Scott, before I read off Verde FC, the names that I just read off, I mean, some ballers, some all-time legends in this team. What are you expecting from Listos United?
I think they're going to be pretty well set up. I think Alex and Landon Cottham could probably form a pretty good defensive partnership in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then really, whenever you have Babalu up front, like you really just have to figure out ways to feed him the ball.
100%.
That's really I think that's what we've learned from the media games over the years is that you just get the ball to Baloo in the box and you're going to get goals happen. 100%. So I need to editorialize for a second. So H is talking about, it's talked about all around the world. We bumped up the top of the program, blah, blah, blah. In the show notes, it asks for predictions, and you put, I don't remember who won last year, but I got MVP and scored 5 goals. And it's the most like, I did great, y'all. I don't remember if we won or not, but I scored 5.
Oh, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. We were actually going back and forth, me and Alex today, and he made sure to throw it back in my face. He was like, "You might have got MVP last year, but don't forget who won the match." And he kind of refreshed my memory there. So, I'm actually going to be watching out for the partnership between Bob Ballou and Ryan Madden. I remember last year
Oh,
they
yeah,
had
yeah.
some really good link ups, and we might even throw this idea out there. What if we can get some commentating, some commentary on these media cup matches? I got a lot of ideas. I'm sure a lot of folks that play these games have some ideas as well.
I actually think that'd be a really fun thing for the fans. Like,
100%.
invite some fans to call the game. I'll throw my hat in the ring. It'd
You
be really
seem to
fun.
know. You seem to know a lot of what's going on in these media
It'd
cup
be fun.
games.
It'd be fun to go out there, have it as a broadcast. People could watch. We could have the highlights. Like, it would just
Hmm.
be a fun thing to do, of kind of like turning the tables on the media, having to like answer questions after the game. Like, that'd be so much fun.
I am concerned. I am kind of scared though of how many clips we would see on TikTok with the background noise of and maybe like a wing or like a just something like that, because we're we're
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of the
no,
media,
yeah,
but
no.
we're not pros.
Put it at 3 times speed. Play yakety sax, the Benny Hill theme in the background. It'd be so hilarious. It would go viral immediately.
100%. Now, Verde FC is coming in with the second. Well, I can't say second half because we also have Mike Crignola and also his wife on Soon Tower. But you have Verde FC coming in with Jeremiah Bentley of Moon Tower Soccer. You have Corey Mose of the news stations. Shout out to my G Corey. Love his Longhorns and Spurs content. Absolutely the best. Cam Kubek of communications department, baller as well. Do not sleep on this guy. He's also extremely fit. So I'm actually happy he is on my team. Matt Singer works for the club. I think he's an admin as well, as long with Massimo. Really cool guy. I love his mustache, actually. Then you have the MVP of the 2024 MLS Media Cup game for Austin FC, Mr. Hernan Gonzalez, also known as H. And the crowd goes wild. I gotta say, Scott, I get the biggest smile on my face the few times that I've been allowed in the Austin FC press box, and you go to the food area and there's a plaque with all the MVPs of the Media Cup games going back to 2021, and I get so much joy in my little heart when I see my name as a 2024 MVP. It meant a lot to me. I'm not gonna
You
lie, it did mean a
you
lot.
should though. Like, that's gonna be something in like 20 years. People are gonna be like, "Who's that dude?" Like,
Yeah,
at some point.
exactly. I need that actually. Can I get that plaque? Can I get a copy of that? Can I
Can
get
you
it
get a
3D
picture of it?
printed?
At the very least, you need a picture of it. It
Oh,
needs to be like, it needs to be
I
in the
got
show
pictures.
notes.
I got
You
pictures.
need
Trust
to,
me,
yeah, you need to drop that in the show notes.
100%. Now, moving on, we have the very talented Katie Goodman. She is going to be coming up to ATX and helping us get this W. Shout out to my G Katie. Last year, she was a very good Robin to my Batman storyline in this game. She was actually hyping me up every single chance she got, and it was adding to my confidence, and I kept on scoring. She's also a baller herself. Used to play. I think an injury took her out. You also got Eric Goodman, mate. Shout out to my G Eric. Great reporter in the Austin FC community. Last year, he had a really cool Valencia jersey. I thought that was dope. And he kind of backed it up. He had some good touches. He had some good movements on the ball. He's fit. He's on my team. And he's going to need to be running up and down the field. I think he is our Guilherme Biru, if I'm not mistaken. Eric Goodman. Now, moving on, you got Lincoln Rose. Shout out to my G Lincoln. He might be the wild card. He might be the Will Bruin. Keep an eye on Lincoln Rose. You got the very popular and famous Phil West of the Verde All Day Substack with Verde FC, Alex Franco from the radio station, Colby Gordon from the Statesman, Juan Garcia from Vamos Verde Pod, Dante Valencia, photographer for Washington TV, and of course, Richie from Otra Por Favor. Solid teams, mate. Breaking important and worldwide news, this matchup between Listos United and Verde FC. And I just got to ask you, early predictions now that you know both rosters for this match.
See, I kind of like Verde FC. I think y'all have a little more scoring punch, and I think you have a little bit more like to me, like this looks like more of an attacking team. Like it's gonna have like some good midfielders and like some good attack, and y'all be able to kind of like push the pace a little bit. I think it's always like these games ultimately always come down to conditioning because it's a bunch of people who are not in full soccer shape, and
100%,
so it really
100%.
comes down to like everybody who spends the like 2 weeks before like actually like putting some miles on the road, getting some cardio in, trying to make sure that they can actually like compete for the full time.
Now, before we close out on this important topic, I do have to mention two very important things, I must say. Number one, I have heard rumors that Bob Ballou is coming into this game with a small knock. I don't want to say he's questionable. I don't want to say he's questionable, but there is concern from his camp that he is coming into this game with a knock. However, I also have to include this piece. After the media availability with club president Andy Loughnane, he tapped me on my shoulder as he was leaving, and as he winked, he said, "See you guys Friday?" I was like, "Oh, this guy's there. This guy is there. This guy is not missing this match." So I expect him to be there. Like I said, I don't want to say he's questionable, but I think Big Bob's going to be there, mate.
I mean, this is the big match of the season. Like you have
100%.
to come out in full speed, and if you can go at all, you have to go. And I
There,
mean, he's not going to give up the chance to score 3 goals again.
do I have to mention that there's a Austin FC Yeti Cup on the line for the MVP? I mean, people
Oh
want these things,
wow,
Scott. People want these things. I have mine. I don't even use mine. I have it on the
that's a
wall, bro. I have it
that's
on
a
the shelf.
I'm saying that's a really expensive trophy. Like people don't
It is.
realize how much that costs.
And
Like
yeah,
that's
and you can't get your season ticket member discount if you try to buy it from the Verde store. You can't use it on Yeti products. So doesn't come
no.
around easy.
Okay, so I'm a season ticket holder. We got the membership survey, like end of season survey, and one of the questions was like value from getting the 10% off in the store, and I'm like, when is the 10% off in the store? I've never seen this actually be a thing that you can use.
It's tough. It's tough because a lot of things you cannot use it. And I'm like, this is so silly. If it's gonna be 10%, it's gonna be 10% or not, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay,
Oh,
I
it's
can't
not
use
on
it on
game
Yeti
days. It's
products.
not blah blah blah. Like no,
Yes.
just like don't
Hmm.
don't tell me I get 10% off and then not give me 10% off.
They should have put this into the Apple deal and MLS schedule change as well, but we're gonna
Get
get to there.
Hey, give me 10% off Apple. That'd be great.
Give They're gonna say we already did. You don't have to pay the $14.99. You get to pay $13.99. But all right, Media Cup game is coming up. I'm very excited to be there. Leafs United versus Verde FC, and hopefully we can get some more fan participation in the future. I think fans would love to see some of their favorite media members. And the second part that I was going to mention, Bob Ballou being kind of going into this game somewhat injured. I am also carrying a small knock going into this game. I have crouched down. I've tried to do some squats, and my knee has a small pinch, my left knee, and I kick with my left foot. So I'm being very honest. I'm coming into this game with a small knock, but I'm going to put everything on the line. I'm there. I'm there 100%. But hopefully I can shake it
Breaking
off by
news.
tomorrow.
Breaking news on the
Breaking
podcast.
news. Breaking freaking news, brother. But all right, now to get into some real Austin FC stuff. Something that's very important to a lot of Austin FC fans, Scott, is Damian Las and his journey through the ranks, going on loan, coming back just for the open training in front of the season ticket members, and then going back to Louisville. But on his second time back, he did more than his first time with Louisville, with his first season with Louisville. This guy, this kid, this guy, this dude has completely swept the awards that a goalkeeper can receive in the USL, and he completes the freaking sweep. They fell short in the playoffs. I know they would want to win a title for the city, for the fans that back them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Louisville has a really good support. They have a really good support, not supporters group, but they have a good they have a good fan base, is what I'm trying to say. But the awards that Damian Las picked up: number one, goalkeeper of the year, massive. Number two, all league first team. Maybe that's the lowest one out of all three, but it's still incredible. And then the last one here, the third one, is the Golden Glove. And not only that, he recorded a historic season for Louisville, the least amount of goals they've ever conceded in club history. And then somebody even mentioned in the chat, they were saying, hey, there was one or two games where he didn't play and the other keeper stepped in and they scored a couple on him. So that's contributed to his record. So Damian Las, I mean, what a player. He's not the tallest goalkeeper. He's not Stuver height, but man, does he pull off some massive saves. I mean, we saw him with Austin FC too. If you paid attention to him in Louisville, he constantly got save of the week. He kept getting awards. He kept getting, all these things out there with him, with them. But now the big question, Scott, is, well, what's going to happen with him now? He said goodbye to Louisville. You were talking to me about that before we got on the pod. Stephen Cleveland's situation with Austin, it's not the best. Stuver, we know that his situation is that he just got a contract extension, so he's not going anywhere. The fans love him. Is Damian Las going to be the number 2 for 2026? What do you think?
That seems like the obvious plan, and that's kind of what has been alluded to by like club officials when they are at a bar with fans and enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was really glad that Loss went back to Louisville because his first season there, they had a very stacked team, and he didn't have to do as much. And I think I remember looking it up that he had the lowest save percentage of any keeper who qualified for like that being tracked in terms of like number of games or number of shots faced or whatever. And this year you could see like really his growth of kind of not kind of like being dragged by the team, but actually like leading it in the sense of, you know, making all the saves and his distribution improving. And that's what you want from these loans. Like this you know, the difficulty of being a keeper is that every team only needs one. And if you can't find a starting spot in your main club, then you need to get sent somewhere else, but then you need to be sent somewhere that you know you're actually going to get minutes and start. And Loss is that guy. You know, he's still 20, only 23, which is still pretty young for a keeper. You know, we've seen him do it at Austin FC2. We've seen him do it in USL. It seems like a natural fit that he would come to Austin as the backup, get a few games in as needed. You know, as much as, you know, Stuver's an Iron Man and doesn't want to let anybody else ever play, like just with the sheer number of matches that Austin's going to play, in theory, you know, he should get some field time, and that's going to be good for him in his development. And ultimately, like him and his agent have to kind of make a decision of, okay, are we willing to be a second keeper for 1, 2, 3 years based on Stuber's contract, or do I need to look for another starting spot in MLS?
And that is the big
Or
question,
another
man.
league?
That is, yeah, another league, honestly. And I think I think Damian Las has obvious leverage going into this question or into this decision that, you know, I don't know. I don't know if his father plays a role in this, kind of being his agent or whatnot, but there's a big decision that the Las family has to make because the kid is obviously good. He obviously has talent, and his loan time has obviously ran up. You know, I think, you know, him deciding that he was gonna, you know, go on loan again but still stay with Austin FC. I think that took a lot from him because, I mean, now, especially nowadays, Scott, you have a lot of folks on social media, a lot of people in your ear, you know, probably gassing up a lot of these players saying, "Oh, you need to leave, man. You need, man. They're playing you, man. You need your money. You need to do this and that and that." And for a young guy, I would imagine, with all the pressures of social media and wanting to be something right now, it's hard to look at the future. It's hard to be, okay, well, I'm gonna plan this out. And I feel like Damian Las already did the loan period. You sent him 2 seasons to USL. He proved to you that he's over there still trying to win his spot in Austin. He's not over there to mess around. He's not over there just to kill time. He's respecting Louisville. He knows he knew this whole time he was gonna be coming back or coming somewhere else, going somewhere else. And I really respect his hustle. I really, you know, I really just admire the fact that he's been able to stay locked in all this time. And something very important that actually Landon from Moon Tower had brought up, something that I had not even thought about, but now I can't stop thinking about it. I always bring it up when the topic loss comes up, is that Stephen Cleveland, he occupies a senior roster spot. Damian Las is on the supplemental. So if you bring back Damian Las, you promote him as your second keeper, and then Stephen Cleveland moves on, you have a senior roster spot that you can use on any other player that is not Damian Las, because he'll still be on that supplemental spot.
Yeah, it's such a huge advantage to be able to stack those supplemental spots with guys who are actually contributors or can contribute. And that's something that you see in MLS a lot, of the teams that have strong academies who can call up just, you know, 18, 19-year-olds from the second team and they can just fit in. Like, those are the teams that are always successful. Like, you know, beforehand we were talking about the problems that Philly has, but like Philly is the model of like having an academy that you can just plug in guys and they just work every time. You know, there's an old adage that like you're not really an MLS team until some random 17-year-old named Caden scores on you, because that's just kind of what you get from MLS academies. But, you know, going back to Damian Las, like he is he has gone through all the steps and he has
Yeah,
succeeded at all of them. He was frankly too good to be in Next Pro when he was in Next Pro last season. I think he won goalkeeper of the month every month, which just kind of goes to show like what his level was compared to his peers in his age group.
massive.
And now going to, talking about what he did last year in Louisville, like he led USL in save percentage.
Mm.
He was second in saves. He led on goals against per 90. I believe he led on wins as a keeper, and they only allowed 19. Never mind, I lost it. But like they just had such a great defensive record that he was a part of. Like he's proven himself at every level. All he can do is move on to a higher level to prove himself again.
Yep. And it better not be Next Pro. I swear, if he comes back to Austin and they send him to Austin FC 2, I'm gonna
He
lose
should
it.
leave.
I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. I think that would be disrespectful, honestly,
No,
because
it would be.
isn't the argument that it's Next Pro, USL, MLS? That's like what people say that the kind of level is at. That
Yeah,
USL is better than Next Pro.
yeah. I mean, it's the difference of like Next Pro like is essentially age capped, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a difference between playing like a bunch of like teenagers and like
True.
college age kids and like adults who have like beards and ex-wives and kids. Like one of the keepers in USL is Bill Hamid, who's like 34.
Yeah,
Like you're
but
playing against actual adults.
hey, St. Louis City FC2 is on the phone right now. I'm sorry, not FC. St. Louis City SC2 is on the phone right now with their old ass team on the phone right now wanting to talk. MLS Next Pro is all about having a youngster side, and that's why Austin's championship winning team had to be gutted because I think the average age was like what 27 or something like that. It was very old. That's not what Next Pro is supposed to be about. And it is weird. It is kind of gross. I don't want to say gross because I don't want to be rude, but it's not right that the keeper of the year this year for Next Pro is 35 plus years old. I forget his age exactly, but he is 35 plus years old. The keeper of the year for the development league of MLS. That's not how things are supposed to go, but kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, that's a good tangent because one of the problems with Next Pro is that every team treats it differently. You can either play a like really young team of prospects to try to get them experience, or you can play an older team that's designed to win. Austin kind of went the route of trying to win, of having an older team, and now they've kind of reversed that to playing younger guys, which has led to the results being worse. Like I think they haven't made the playoffs 2 years in a row, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
But if your goal isn't to make the playoffs, your goal is to develop the youngsters who are 15, 16, 17. Like that's also a success in and of itself. Also, Damian Las making an MLS team would mean that Rodolfo Burrell can finally stop making fun of the the Next Pro team that won, talking about how none of them are in MLS yet. And
Yeah,
so
shots.
He will have to stop making that argument.
Shots, bro. And you know what? Actually, when I was talking about that keeper that won MLS Next Pro goalkeeper of the year, I was actually being very nice. I was actually being generous when I said 35 plus. Mate, would you believe? Actually, you'll have it on your screen right now. This gentleman, he's Swiss goalkeeper, 41 years old. 41, mate. He plays for Chattanooga FC. He got MLS Next Pro goalkeeper of the year. Wow.
Insane. No, somebody who I also like that just makes me feel old because
Young
we're
talent.
talking about how ancient a 41-year-old is, and it's like I turned 42 like a month ago, and so it's like at the same time like nobody who's like a year younger than me should still be playing like soccer, and especially not in Next Pro. That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. It's Next Pro.
Call up some 19-year-old. What are you guys doing?
Not the way you're supposed to be doing things, Chattanooga. But you're right. Every team does treat it differently. That is 100% true. But I want to move on. Damian Las, we are waiting for you here with open arms, mate. I will pick you up at the airport or I'll pay for your Uber. We can stop by Panda or Chick-fil-A, wherever, man. I got you, Damian. The city is waiting for you, bro, honestly. And it'll be healthy to have Brett Stuber with some competition. I think everybody needs that to stay on their toes. But another conversation. But Damian, welcome home. It is time. Now, Scott, I want to talk a little bit about the international call-ups for Austin FC players. And I think this has been the most positive, most exciting international break for Austin FC players of all time. We've done so many podcasts. We've written so many articles. We've had so many news graphics go out. I've never had this many positive things to say about an Austin FC international window. We have on the breakdown, we have Ilie Sánchez with Catalunya. their 2-1 win over Palestine in a match that was organized to raise funds and awareness, humanitarian aid for the people in Gaza. Football for peace was the official slogan. You had Uzuni with Albania beating Andorra, losing, of course, against England, but England didn't even concede a goal in these qualifiers, which is insane. We have Dani Pereira, Venezuela, both Uzuni and Dani Pereira with assists. Dani with the hockey assist, but we'll still count it for the sake of the pod. And then Alexander Svatok with Ukraine. Great performance with France in the first half, but then France showed who France is in the second half and just clapped back with 4 goals. Svatok did pretty good job there. And their main match, what they were aiming for was the one against Iceland. They did the job. They won 2-0. And along with Albania, they clinched their spot in the playoff and the playoff bracket for the UEFA team. So Gattuso can cry all he wants. There's still teams with chances to make it into the World Cup. And then Ervin Torres and Micah Burton with the U.S. youth national team. Ervin Torres and the U19s. They won the tournament that they were playing up in Wales. They played Germany. They played, I forget who. I can think England would make sense. I forget who they played, but I know that they were champions. I should have added it to the show notes here. It's my bad. I'll try to look for it right now. But Ervin Torres finding success with the U.S. youth national team. And then Micah Burton with the U20s in Costa Rica. They had 2 games against the Costa Rican U20s, and they won both of those. But Scott, with Ilie, starting with him real quick, 2-1 win over Catalunya, a very important match for so many reasons, and I'm proud that Ilie was a part of this because, I mean, if you know Ilie, I know Ilie, everybody knows Ilie. This game was probably a big deal for him as well. And just before I go to you, mate, it just goes to show that it's never too late. Really, it honestly never is. At 34 years young, Ilie Sánchez gets his first call up to Catalonia, and he scores his first goal in the first 5 minutes. And I didn't know this, but there's some big names that have represented this national team. You've had Gerard Piqué. You've also had Busquets, Fabregas, Eric Garcia, Lamine Yamal, and Leo Messi at the youth level, apparently. But the history of Catalonia is deep. And me being a Real Madrid fan in La Liga, you hear a little bit about it. Some stuff comes up with the news. I know they've kind of had they've had massive protests for Catalonia to be recognized in Spain well, we all know Spain's history. But Scott, come on into this, mate. Ilie Sánchez and Catalonia. I mean, 2-1 win for them. Football for peace.
Yeah, it's a great match and a great cause to try to bring more attention into what's going on, especially when it comes to like the genocide that's going on in Palestine.
Yep.
And really trying to like help them as much as they can. It's also just a cool thing. I remember there were times when there were moves to try to get Ilie to get registered so he could play for the U.S. men. At one point, I remember that was a big push for it. You know, you talk about the history of Catalonia and or Catalunya, sorry.
I've seen like 4 versions of how to write it. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I think it is one of those like very interesting stories when you look at the history of Spain, especially dating back to, you know, going through the fascist dictator of
Franco era.
The Franco era, you know, having the, you know, going back from the monarchy to that, and how Catalonia makes a big plays a big part in that history in terms of you know, having its own cultural identity and having its own space in Spain that kind of is, at least for like the people I know who have traveled Spain, like one of the things they rave about is that like you can go to all the regions and like you actually feel like you're in different places everywhere, like even for a country that's not necessarily that large. So I think that's a really cool thing for people who haven't studied it. I definitely recommend, like, there's a lot of really good books about Spanish football and viewing, you know, the history of Spain through that lens. I think there's one called like Fear and Loathing in La Liga or something like that I read. I forget the exact title. And also like it's such a cool moment for Ilya to be able to do that and be part of that, as like you said, like a first cap, even at his age, which is obviously still younger than me, but where
He's young.
He's old in soccer years. And so it is a very cool thing, like and also seeing Austin FC just have all these representatives everywhere, having them on all these European clubs, you know, still being alive for World Cups in a lot of cases. Unfortunately, Costa Rica got eliminated, but you know, seeing like the teams that are making it from CONCACAF, when you look at like Curacao, who's going to be the smallest country ever to make it, is such a cool story. Another in the long line of Caribbean islands that are using the ancestry of their European colonizers to be able
Yep.
to like build up their national teams, which is great.
Yep.
And Dani Pereira, I think that's kind of that's what a lot of people expected going into the season, was seeing him as a little bit more of a facilitator in terms of providing some goal output and being involved in like the passing game and getting assists. It didn't work as well for Austin FC, but I think it kind of goes to show that he is so versatile. You can play him at different spots and still get results. And it's nice to see him be able to have those opportunities for Venezuela.
100%. And real quick on the Dani topic, I mean, he played a long ball. Like I mentioned earlier, it was the hockey assist. And there was some people on social media, Twitter accounts, you see who like replies to a tweet or whatnot, and you translate it from Spanish to English if you don't, you can't read the language. But there was some folks saying that, oh, he just booted it upfield. No. If you know Dani has that vision. I've seen him more do it with the ball on the ground. I know he's played some long balls before, but that is something that is in his locker. He has that vision. He has that kind of finesse in his passes where he can put the ball up in the air like that and land so smoothly and softly like a pillow into somebody's feet or to somebody's boots. And that pass completely split Australia's defense. I think it caught him off guard. I didn't think that he could play that. And he said it sets up his teammates to just, play that easy FIFA, ball to the back, and the striker just puts it into the back of the net. And unfortunately, they did lose out against Canada 2-0, but you can blame LAFC's David Martinez for picking up a silly red card.
Yeah.
Alex was actually pretty furious about that. He was livid. He was like, this guy from LAFC, David Martinez. I was like, Alex,
I mean,
respira.
Also, Canada is a like competent national team.
Jesse
Like
Marsh.
that's not like it's not like a shame to lose to them. Like they really made like leaps and bounds like in terms of like their national program of what they've done. And hitting those long balls, I think sometimes people forget that these are professional soccer players. Like their level of what they can do and how they control the ball is so far beyond what we like normal humans can do. I mean obviously not like media game MVPs like you obviously can do this. But like for the rest of us, they're not just like randomly hitting the ball somewhere. Like every time they hit the ball, it's with an intent to do something specific.
100%.
And they are skilled enough to do that.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like also another thing to throw out there, Venezuela and Canada. I mean, I wonder if a little bit of a international or intercontinental rivalry might form there, because Canada knocked out Venezuela out of the Copa America last year, when Venezuela was very, very hopeful. They topped their group that year, that cup, beating Mexico. They played in Austin. And actually, on the Dani Pereira topic, now that I crossed that match that was here in Austin, after Dani's match against Australia, where he picked up a 7.5 match rating according to FootMob, there was folks on social media saying it is a crime from Bocha Batista that he didn't give Dani Pereira more of an opportunity in the qualifiers. And then they thought even more back. They were saying, wait, Dani Pereira, Venezuela played at Q2 Stadium in the Copa America. You were already up 2-0. Yeah. You had one substitution left. Dani was on the bench, and he didn't use him as a substitution. So folks were bringing up receipts. They're very high on Dani. Yeah, 100%.
That's one of those things that, like, when you look
at it
from
I was there for.
Perspective, like, it looks like
that's what I was there for.
Like, you're playing in your home match, and you have a sub left, and you're winning easily. Yeah. Like, put the guy in. Like,
Costa Rica did the favor to Julio Cascante when they played here at Q2. Cascante went in for about 11 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, in their match against, I think it was Panama or Jamaica, one of those two. But it was Costa Rica here at Q2.
Yeah.
I remember that. But other than Dani Pereira, of course, we had Mirto Uzuni. Ilie Sánchez, he was with Catalonia. But real quick on Mirto Uzuni, today on social media, we saw that he visited his old school in Berat. I believe that's where he was born, his hometown in Albania. Well, that's where he went to school. And one thing I noticed was that all these little kids, man, they were so happy to see him. I mean, they were just all over Mirto, like if he was freaking, Landon Donovan in a San Jose school somewhere. I mean, they obviously knew who this guy was. And I mean, it's no secret who Mirto Uzuni is in the Albanian country. I mean, everywhere that I've looked, when Albania plays a match, there's so much praise coming out from the media for Mirto Uzuni. They credit him for his contributions, both offensively and defensively. They credit him for never giving up, for going 100% in every ball. We've seen that here in Austin, but the folks here that support Austin FC, they just care about one thing, and it starts with the G, ends with an S, and it's goals. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for Mirto Uzuni, but his commitment to the team was second to none, and I think nobody can argue about that. In the game against Andorra, Scott, he did pick up the straight up assist. It was a bit of a counter-attacking goal, and he was on the right side for Albania. I'm wondering if actually Diego Valencia from the Spanish part, he was saying that he was more of a free role for Mirto. It's not that he was on the right, but that he was just more free, and that's where he was at the moment that the counterattack began. They opened it up to him. He marched down the field, and the Andorra defenders, I mean, they're not guys that you'd be picking out for your Champions League side. I mean, the guy that finished the chance, he had his arms open for like 4 seconds saying, I'm open, I'm open. Two guys had him in their line of view, and they didn't have the idea, hey, you know what, maybe I should close this guy down. Mirto Uzuni plays in a really good ball, and he finishes greatly.
Okay, but to be fair, like Uzuni scored a goal like that in MLS because two DC United defenders did that to him too.
That's true.
Like that's just the thing. Like the best part of indoor and soccer is the admin of their Twitter account who does an absolutely tremendous job. I think this is something that happens in a lot of national teams where guys who are normally played as out and out strikers for their club sides get dropped back into more of a playmaking role because they are still the best playmaker on the team. And I think Uzuni falls into that a little bit. I think one of the valid criticisms of the way Austin played last year was not being able to include him and Vasquez enough in the build-up play, or just like getting the ball to their feet. You know, consistently they always had like the fewest touches on the team, and I think that's something that if Austin's going to try to improve their attack next year, and please let me say that I hope they do, getting them more involved to where they're not just only touching the ball on chances, I think would actually be really helpful. And so hopefully that's a sign of like, you know, getting Uzuni more involved in the build-up. Like that'd be a great thing to see. You know, and sometimes you can look at like a national team's playing style with a player and try to figure out better ways to use them.
Now, definitely need to figure out a better way to use Mirto Uzuni in 26 now that Brandon Vasquez comes back. But that is the challenge that we will try to figure out or try to overcome when we get to that point of the season. But with the schedule dropping soon, we're going to have to be thinking about those things very, very shortly, or very, very here soon, I guess I must say. I hate using the same word twice in a sentence. Soon and soon. Is my number one pet peeve. Got to get better at that. It's happened to me 2 times this episode already, and it never does. So I got to clean that up on my part. But we mentioned Ilie, we mentioned Dani, we mentioned Uzuni. On Uzuni is actually you know, on that topic with Albania, they're also, like I mentioned earlier, they are second place in Group K, and they're in the playoff spot with Ukraine. So the draw for that is on Thursday. So by the time this podcast is out, we will know what those UEFA playoff fixtures look like. So that's very, very exciting. Now, Svatok, we talked about him. Ervin, Torres, and Micah, I mentioned him. Julio Cascante, I mentioned that there was a lot of positives this window. The negative is that Cascante and Costa Rica are out of the World Cup. Miguel El Piojo Herrera, Mexican coach, absolute failure on his part to not qualify Costa Rica, who honestly I think is one of the most talented CONCACAF sides. I mean, CONCACAF is not a power. I mean, I don't want to disrespect CONCACAF, but we know that CONCACAF, we know what it is. And Costa Rica, in my opinion, they're one of the better sides. They you know, they've been to World Cups. They've had great players. They've given Mexico some tough games. They've given sides in the World Cup some tough games as well. Not Germany in that 2006 opener. I remember that one very greatly, very, very, very vividly. But Costa Rica, they demand respect in CONCACAF. But like I said, failure from El Piojo, failure for the Costa Rican people. They're gutted. Keylor Navas gutted. Julio Cascante gutted. And it's just unfortunate for a whole nation that should be at a World Cup when Mexico and USA and Canada are taken out of, you know, it's just embarrassing. No excuse for Costa Rica, Venezuela, you know, just no excuse.
So I think that's one of the interesting things about CONCACAF World Cup qualifying is that without those 3 teams involved, like you end up with a very weird mix of teams that are going to do it. And so you look at the groups, and just looking at the names, like you would expect Costa Rica to win Group C. You know, Haiti won even though they didn't play any home games, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. It's really great for them. I'm really happy for them and all their fans.
100%.
You know, even the Violet fans and the honky honk band that we love to joke about in Los Verdes. But you look at the groups and like you think of who's going to win. It's like, oh, it's set up for Panama, Jamaica, and Costa Rica to advance, and only one of those teams did, and it's Panama. And so
Yeah.
that's all the old adage of like why they play the games. And I always felt like Costa Rica was better at punching up than punching down. Like they were always better at beating the U.S. and Mexico and Canada and getting those performances than playing teams that are have less talent than them. And I think that's difficult for a lot of national teams who are used to having to play a certain way to get results to have to completely change how they play. And so I think that was a little bit of it, but credit to Haiti and Curacao and Panama for qualifying. That's great for them. And I think Suriname
They just
is.
missed it.
Did they just miss
Missed
it?
it.
I thought
Yeah.
they made the. Did they not make the playoff?
Did they make the? I think you're right. They missed direct qualification.
Yeah, they missed their qualification, but they're in a playoff. So
Yeah, I
that'll
think you're
be.
right.
I think it's going to be a fun thing to see if they're able to qualify too. Because then, I mean,
Yeah.
having 7 CONCACAF nations in the World Cup, that's crazy.
Now, I think, I don't want to knock on anybody, on any nation or whatnot, but this also kind of goes to show why the expanded World Cup would be kind of, the competition wouldn't be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
So
don't.
I like the idea because I do think that the explosion of how quality soccer is played around the world, and it's also FIFA's rules in terms of how players can qualify for national teams, has helped to balance out the playing field a little bit more. I talked
Mhm.
about a little bit about Curacao being able
Yeah.
to get players who have ancestry there who are who grow up everywhere.
It was, I think that was a country that reached out heavily to the Dutch
Yeah.
heritage players.
Yeah, and same with a team like Jamaica does that for a lot of like English players too, or players that we
Indonesia's
think of
doing
as
that too.
Indonesia does that too, and so
Malaysia
I
trying to get Owen. Yeah.
or Martin Paez going to Indonesia, I think that was a
Ochoa.
yeah, and so I think as like the talent has kind of evened out a little bit, I don't think that going to 48 is going to make like a terrible World Cup. It's going to be terrible. And we're all going to hate it and blah blah blah. I think it's going to be better than we think it is. And I like the idea of trying to expand the game by getting more countries involved and giving them a chance. Especially looking at UEFA qualification of Italy having to qualify by playoff again. But it goes to show how difficult it is to even qualify in a 48 team cup, because there are just still only so many spots and there are so many countries that are good. I mean, Norway qualified for the first time in forever.
Mhm.
Scotland qualified for the first time since 1998. Like seeing those stories and seeing the passion and of the players and the fan base for that, like as club soccer becomes more and more sanitized in terms of like players just kind of being not quite mercenary but moving around more, teams no longer be owned by local fans, etc. Like you see more passion from the national teams than you do for the club teams now. And so I think expanding the World Cup will help to give us feel to display that side of the game better than we get from club soccer currently.
Yeah, no, and definitely this mix of like dual nats is definitely, putting in work for a lot of these countries. And, all power to them. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and try to form the best national team that you can, knock out some of these maybe more traditional sides, and compete for the World Cup ticket. I mean, you saw how much it meant to those Haitian players. I mean, they were just collapsed on the field, crying. Elijah Richard, I believe that's how you say his last name, content creator, he was out there in that game, and like he was getting some videos and stuff, and it was just passionate. So it does you're able to get some of these storylines, and so I love a good storyline going into World Cup, and I feel like we're getting a lot of them this time around. We're getting a lot of these stories, so I think that's very cool. So hopefully Cascante and Costa Rica have goldfish kind of memory. I know that people of Costa Rica won't. They're going to be talking about this for a long time. But hey, it is what it is. You got to kind of just move forward, and just good luck on the next one, guys. But good luck to Uzuni and Albania. Good luck to Svatok and Ukraine. Dani Pereira, Venezuela, also not playing for anything. They're just friendly matches, but they got to get ready for the next cycle. And Ervin and Micah, just big ups on them doing their thing. But another topic that I want to get into, mate, this is by now it's been talked about. Everybody's been mentioning it on their pods. It's the MLS Cup schedule change, or the MLS season schedule change. And also including throwing in there the Apple TV new deal that we also got to talk about, because it is just as important, because it is how you consume, how you see these matches. So let's just jump right into it. Now, I have some points here from the article, Scott, that you dropped on the We're Austin TV Substack, the WATV Media Substack. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and check it out and subscribe. And I'll start off with this quote here. This is from your article, Scott. It is the weather key points in ATX. So, talking about the weather, this is a quote from the article. It says, having a split season isn't that different than what MLS does now with Leagues Cup or will do in 2026 with the World Cup break. It trades a few summer matches for a few winter matches. And for Austin, we get to beat the heat and enjoy more matches in mild temperatures. As I write this in the middle of November, the high today is 80 degrees, which should help with attendance and interest. So kind of starting off with the weather, mate. What are your thoughts? I mean, of course, we read a piece there, but what are your thoughts on this kind of change for Austin? I think it'll be positive for the Verde and Black in the sense that they're in a market, they're in a part of the country where moving the schedule in the way that they are, it'll be 70-degree weather matches, 80-degree weather matches, much like you mentioned in the article there.
Oh, I think it's going to be a huge benefit for Austin. Not just for the players, but for the fans of not having to do the, 100 plus degrees. Having the late starts 8:30 to try to make it to where it's after the sun goes down. I always feel bad for all the people who are on the east side of the stadium who just look like they're baking. And anytime we have a summer match, ultimately, we are just making it like a little bit of a trade. And there's only a handful of cities that are really going to be in the too wintry, too cold to play in. And if we just have like a little bit of smart scheduling in terms of like maybe their first, match or two back are, played in southern cities or played in domes, like you can kind of solve this pretty quickly. One of the problems that MLS has is, and actually Luis Suarez talked about this, was one of the things he was not expecting about MLS was how much travel there is, just because of how big the country is and including Canada. And we can use that to our advantage now because we can use the larger geography to plan out using the different climates and using the different temperatures to be able to, we can just use the schedule in a way that makes a lot more sense now. And I think Andy even said something about how they kind of do this anyway. Like if you look at Austin hosting games, we tend to not host as many games in the summer. I don't know if people really realize this when they notice, but there's a lot of times where in like a July or August, like we only have one home match.
Mm-hmm.
And that's by design. And I don't think people realize that. I mean, I think our biggest week, or I'm sorry, I think we had 7 home matches in May because of Open Cup.
Yep.
Or something
I
crazy
remember
like
that.
that.
I remember that,
And
that,
so,
that little stretch.
but and then I remember going through the season and being like, okay, I was going there a lot, but throughout the rest of the season, like it didn't really feel like I went that much or as often in terms of like how the matches are spread out. And so I think it's going to be a real positive for Austin just because we're just going to not have to have those absolutely terrible like June, July, August, like 100, 105 degrees, like, hydrate for 2 days beforehand just so you can make it through the match.
So in the summer from June to August, you had 5 home matches. So that's pretty good there. So yeah, you're
like,
right. They already kind of do it.
Yeah, like MLS can just kind of smart schedule this to like avoid that. I know that I think there's always people who are going to complain about any switch no matter what. I only see positives in this, both in terms of like the weather and availability, but aligning with the rest of the world, essentially aligning with Liga MX in terms of like their Apertura Clausura seasons or their regular season at least, not including the playoffs, but essentially lines up exactly with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The transfer windows being open differently or being open at the same time, like that's always a big problem of MLS teams essentially in the biggest windows for Europe are having to decide, are we a seller and are we going to, not make a playoff run?
That's
Minnesota sold their best attacker right before their playoff run.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that to Andy after the press conference was over. We were kind of talking, about the topic off camera or whatnot. Small conversation, nothing. Oh my God, he said this now. But I had to throw it out there. I was like, well, the markets line up where Minnesota would have probably liked, because I saw Andy in Minnesota in the US Open Cup semifinal. So the reason why I had mentioned it, because we said hi to each other in the locker room or in the hallway in front of the locker room as when the game was ended. And I told him, I was like, well, Minnesota would have probably liked to have that guy that they sold in the summer to Villarreal. And instead, they didn't, and look who bounced them out of the U.S. Open Cup semifinal. So I had mentioned that to him. So yeah, 100% on that part.
I mean, it's also going to be helpful for players like, a player like a Dani Pereira or an Owen Wolf who's trying to make a move somewhere else to where, you can go during the primary window. And I don't think we count enough how having our season be different from training for Europe and basically every other league in the world, essentially, makes it harder for the players to transfer in and immediately make an impact. Like for every like Son and Thomas Mueller who have gotten off to really hot starts with their teams, there's a bunch of guys who don't do anything at all for the last like 9 or 10 matches of the season after they get transferred in, and they don't really make an impact until the next year. And so
Yep.
hopefully by aligning these schedules to where the players are on the same kind of like training program, like we will see less of that, and we'll be able to have like the new signings be able to integrate in immediately in a way that makes a lot more sense, both on the football side.
Yeah, 100%. Now, another piece from the article that I wanted to talk about here, and this is the part that has me more excited about this change with the transfer windows aligning, and it's the Rodo point. It's the Rodo factor. Now, a quote here from the article, if you want to check it out, make sure to do it on the WATV Substack. It says here, Scott says, Austin's own Rodolfo Borrell has lamented it many times that the primary MLS window is mid-season in Europe, and players in mid-season form then have to go through training camp, or conversely, getting players who are still prepping for the season into a team 75% done with their seasons proves difficult. MLS commentator David Goss even talks about players who come to MLS mid-season, you just mentioned that right now, and who underwhelm and don't perform to their best until the following season. Now, why did I obviously scope this out? Why did I call this the Rodo point? Well, I think this is his time to shine 100%. Now, he should have been shining before. I know people are going to be like, oh no, he's been wasting all this money or whatnot. Well, now he has everything at his advantage, right? He has, because what was the biggest thing, or at least in my mind, one of the biggest things, one of the most important things when Austin FC had hired Rodo Borrell was the fact that he has all these connections in Europe with coaches, with staff members of different Premier League teams, and with players, more than anything, with agents of those players. So now there's not going to be an issue of having to debate, hey, come over to MLS. Oh no, now it's too late. I can't go. Now everything is aligned. Everything is aligned. And those connections that we believe Rodo Borrell to have, which I'm pretty sure that he does, they're now going to be able to be used at max capacity. So do I think that we're going to be a 100% European team? No, 100% no. But we're aligned globally now. So I'm excited to see just what kind of different caliber players are going to come walking through that door, because it's no secret in 2026, a lot of the signings kind of fell short of what a lot of people expected from them. So we'll see if there's a step up in the quality of players now. Well, it can't be now because this comes soon, not tomorrow or next season, but in 2027. But we'll see if the situation changes for some of the caliber signings that Rodo Borrell brings to that door. And hopefully he has more money to mess around with, but another conversation to have there. Anything you want to add, Scott, to that Rodo point?
No, I think that's going to be the biggest help, is that aligning with the rest of the world, we are now no longer like the weird, quirky league with the weird schedule. And I think it's going to help MLS be taken just much more seriously.
Exactly, mate. So another thing that I wanted to read here, and this has to do a lot with Austin, because although we don't have an NFL team here, there are the Cowboys up I-35. You have the Texans down 290 in Houston. But what do you have here, Scott? You have the Texas Longhorns, and boy, do they dominate the media landscape in Austin. I mean, they run the show when it comes to attention from the media, local media, and things that they do. It is what it is. The Longhorns are dominant. I mean, they go back decades. You have many people with roots in the city that went to UT, that, they're alumni that stuck around in the city. You also have people that travel to Austin to see these games. It's a big college football brand. I think it might be the most important college football brand out of all. I know Ohio State rivals. I know Michigan rivals, USC at one point maybe. I mean, Alabama for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Texas is always at the top of the revenue, of the total revenue for college football in terms of like brand recognition. Like,
they're like the Man United.
Yeah, it's a huge thing.
100%. So This next part here, I thought it was important to highlight because it is an issue that Austin FC has to deal with. So this is from the article. It says the break from November to January prevents MLS Cup and playoffs competing against football. That part of the season now occurs during the sports doldrums of late spring and also eliminates issues for MLS teams who are the dual tenants with NFL teams to be able to host and schedule playoff games in a more reasonable manner. Now we don't have to deal with the NFL playoffs, but we do have to deal with the Longhorns stealing the show completely. I mean, I think back, just one more thing. I think back to that famous billboard that had UT against, was it Georgia last year here at home? It had F1 Eminem being at the concert or something like that, and no mention of Austin FC. Yes, it was their last game of the season. Yes, it was a horrible season, but that's how erased Austin FC has become from the Longhorn kind of stuff. I mean, the colors don't gel. You see like Charlotte do the same thing as the Panthers. You see Seattle do the same thing as the Seahawks when I'm talking about colors. Green and orange, they don't blend. But it's not like Austin FC was trying to mold themselves after UT. Now, I'm not saying that. But they do have problems when it comes to attention from the city when it comes to the Longhorns.
Yeah, and even looking at it from a bigger perspective, last year MLS Cup was the same day as the SEC title game at the same time. If we're trying to get more casual fans to watch the sport, and I think the changes to the Apple deal, which we'll probably get into at some point, of taking those games outside of the paywall to be able to watch them more, like the best way to do that is to ensure that there are not other important casual sporting events on at the same time. Like,
Yep.
when you look at spring, like it's the beginning of baseball season when nobody really cares, and it's the end of the NBA and NHL regular season and beginning of the playoffs. And for the most part, casual fans don't really watch those games until you get to conference finals. And so it's a big opportunity for MLS to like stake out a weekend or stake out a certain time where there isn't a lot to compete against, to where we can't get like more casuals into it. And then, there's a summer break and then we start back up in the next season 2 months later. And I think that's a much better way of trying to get casual fans involved than what we're currently trying to do, where our most important games are also against the most popular sport in the country's most important games. Like that's just not a winning formula.
Now, you mentioned getting more casual fans involved, Scott. I think what they're aiming for, this is a question by Todd Bynum. He asked Andy, he said, well, this deal with Apple TV, like, did this come about because, you want to obviously reach more folks? You know what I'm saying? So I think we kind of have to talk about it, how it is being, put out there as a sense like, oh, it's being more accessible to fans. And yes, it is more accessible, but there's still a fee. It's not free completely. It's not, oh, Apple TV is on everybody's TV like Roku. No, it's different. You still have to pay. What I think I actually got a text message today from T-Mobile. Breaking news. I am a T-Mobile client, or you know what I'm saying. But the text that I got here says, Apple TV recently announced a price increase, raising Apple TV subscriptions to $12.99 a month. As an Apple TV customer, your plan includes a $9.99 month benefit. There are no changes to your bill, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this and that. But this Apple TV deal, man, I mean, there's rumors of it being worse. There's people saying it's better. I think there's more numbers that need to come out for us to, kind of put like the hammer to the head of the nail and fully close out the topic. Apple TV and MLS are also very secretive of their numbers, of all the information. They've never really put that out there. I think people have to kind of sniff that out, and they kind of haven't or whatnot. But is this a red flag that Apple TV said, hey, we're going to cut the contract down a little bit less. You guys have to take care of production costs now. And, the fact that they're kind of trying to add the Apple TV shows, the F1, the MLB packages into this deal to make it sound better. It's more accessible, yes, but is there more that people aren't really talking about, saying like, hey, is Apple TV kind of like upset with the results? You know what I'm saying?
I can definitely see that, and just the nature of streaming and how secretive it is. Not just Apple, but the way Netflix and all of them kind of are. Like we never really know all the details, and so it's always kind of tough to kind of read the tea leaves on this. I think it's good for MLS to try to have shorter TV deals, and especially after the World Cup in the US will be beneficial. The bigger problem is people in the US, TV habits have changed. we don't have antennas anymore. Fewer and fewer people have cable, or they have,
Mm-hmm.
or if they do, it's still through like a streaming service. It's still like a
Yeah.
YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever.
Or
There's
Twitch.
less there's less random looking at the TV of just finding things on, and it is much more about intent of finding a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so and so to try to get more casual fans to look at it, that casual fan base of people just randomly trying to find something is decreasing and decreasing just based on viewing habits. And so trying to get everything onto one streaming platform to where you're more likely to see it, because Apple has a great library. They have a lot of really great shows. They have a lot of really great movies. They do a terrible job of advertising them, but a lot of them exist. There is a lot of good content there to watch and to come back to. And so as they gather more things, because it seems like Apple is intent on trying to grow their live sports
Mm-hmm.
catalog,
Mm-hmm.
MLS will benefit from that. The problem is that MLS is also kind of the guinea pig, and the guinea pig usually doesn't do well in this situation. Like, you're a test case, like you're at the whims of whatever happens. And so I like the Apple deal, and at the same time, I think the league should always be looking to try to get out of whatever deal to get a better deal at all times. Like, that's their job, is to constantly find a better deal. And so hopefully that kind of comes out, whether that deals with Apple or with another streamer. Prime's been getting involved with a lot of Prime Sport or with a lot of live sports to kind of up their packages. And they're doing a great job with the NBA if you've been watching their NBA coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be kind of interesting to see if they end up staying with Apple or going somewhere else.
Honestly, in the future, I see them going somewhere else, but for the time being, obviously they're going to be with Apple. The deal is, well, the new update deal or whatnot. I mean, I think you really need to get into all the numbers to say, if it's 100% good or if it's bad or whatnot. But on the surface, I mean, I'm a season ticket member. It's free to me, regardless. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really affect me. But when Nashville was playing Miami in the playoffs, I think it was game 2 or game 3. I was at my brother-in-law's house. They had like a big like seafood crawfish boil, blah blah. It was so much fun. Great time, great time. But Nashville was playing Miami, and I told my brother-in-law, "Oh, it's on Apple TV. If you want to put it on, we could watch it. Messi's playing." That's how I sold them off on it, right? I just wanted to watch the game. They're like, "Oh, Messi's playing. Let's go." But when they realized that you needed the MLS season pass, he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna buy it. I don't even watch, I don't even watch MLS." And I was like, so close. And now that hurdle doesn't exist, and you were able to get some of those more casual fans. You get the fans like my brother-in-law or whatnot. And at family gatherings, random scrolling happens. And you're right, Scott. So I think on the surface, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for the league exposure.
It's also just all the matches being played on the same streaming platform makes a huge difference. I mean,
Yeah.
for those of us who follow like big European clubs, like it's like, especially for Premier League, is
You need
okay.
NBC, Peacock, USA.
Yeah, you have to have a live sports package with like a Hulu or YouTube TV, because they don't put all the games on Peacock live. They do some of them on other channels. And then if you want to watch Champions League, you have to get Paramount. And then if you want, FA Cup or Carabao Cup, that's on ESPN. And like, just trying to track like, where is this playing? At some point, actually, it just becomes easier to try and find possibly illegal streams.
No, I agree 100%. 100%. And I'm not gonna lie, in the past, I've found those streams because it's just so difficult to keep up with all these things. I mean, even in Mexican soccer, you have Veeks, you have like all these, like I remember Chivas tried to do their own platform. I mean, it was just they're just trying to get
It's
the fans money, man.
it's
It's
an
so
absolute
annoying.
mess, and especially for somebody who like came into club soccer after the U.S. World Cup in '94, and having DirecTV and just kind of like randomly coming across the Fox Sports world, and it was like, okay, you got like 2 Premier League matches a week, and like maybe, and you got like matches, they're like version of match of the day, and so like we were like lucky to have that.
Yeah.
But you don't get that anymore. I'm just like, oh yeah, we already have this included. It's great. And you have to seek out all these things. And you have to be really intentional about it, and you lose all the casual fans because they're not going to put in that intentionality.
100%. 100%. But we'll see how this ages. We'll see where this ends up. Another big point in all this, Scott, and Colby Gordon asked this, and I think the president seemed a little not annoyed, but he was like, I think he answered it a little bit frustratedly. He said he was like, I just don't have the answer right now, Colby. But the question was, he was like, has the league been talking to the MLS Players Union? And the follow up question was, is there any concern from the player side that in was it 2027 they'll essentially be playing like the full year? And I think Andy said that the league and the MLS Players Union is talking, but I'm not going to say any names, but somebody that used to be here in Austin that had some connections to the Players Union. When the first Apple deal was signed, the 10 years, they were like, this is bad. This is not good. They could have got a lot more money. This is not the move. This is not the way to go. And I think his take is aging right because I don't know. I we'll see what happens. But the Players Union, I mean, they could put a halt to this. I hope that they are on board or they're cooperating, but I feel like sometimes the MLS underestimates the power of the Players Union.
Well, and I think some of that is also anytime you have a younger league, you're going to have more player union strife. You just are because you're figuring it out. One of the things that got forgotten during the COVID MLS's back is that the players were set to strike then. And every time we get close to the end of a CBA, which we are, I think the current one ends in 2027, I want to say, like you're inherently going to run into these problems because you have a strict deadline. One of the great things about soccer is that there's always soccer between European season and MLS and international games and all of this stuff that like there's always something on, and that to some extent has been a detriment to the players because MLS has not grown roster sizes. It hasn't really it's increased the amount of money to the players, but at increments that may or may not be based on revenue. We're not totally sure. And so as we see that balance between management and workers and the players, like I would hope the players would be consulted because ultimately, like we go to see the players. Like nobody goes to see Anthony Precourt besides Columbus fans who want to flip them off. Like we're here to watch the players play the games.
Exactly. Oh, freaking Kobe, dude! Kobe, I love his questions and I love his journalistic style. He goes everywhere with a notepad, and he just like, I don't know how he does it. He's just like they'll like say something and he'll write something down, and I'm like, I wonder what he's writing, bro. And he has. I'm not gonna lie, Kobe, you got bad handwriting, and I think it's probably by design, so nobody can read what he's putting down on that notepad. Just him. It's secret codes. I know it.
It sounds like he needs to have like a fedora that has a little like press tag like sticking up, and like the really old school. Like he should do that.
Hey, shout out to Kobe, my
teammate. Do it, Kobe.
My teammate Kobe Gordon, right there. Check out his work, everybody. He always is dropping articles. Working for the Statesman, so he had a really good attendance record this year for media availability. So shout out to Micah Kobe. Really like his work out there. But coming here to the end of the show, here just a couple more topics. I mean, also one more thing. I think this is important to mention. I'll just speed through this real quick. It seems like it'll be regular pricing for the sped up season, for the sprint season is what they're calling it. The language that Andy was using kind of made it seem like, hey, we're still having a lot of games. You're not going to get less product for your money. Like the product is still going to be the same amount of matches. We're going to have this amount of matches this year, this amount of matches that year. So to me, it seems like the sped up season is going to be regular money. And now I know season ticket members were maybe hoping for some kind of break, like money wise. But if the club can offer a little bit more availability of trainings, I think a lot of season ticket members would appreciate that. I mean, remember last year how happy folks were to see the players train in that freezing cold weather. I mean, I was there, I was freezing my hands off, but it was still a good time. It was still a good time to see these guys train, and they spoke to them. They sat down in the chairs and they spoke to the fans. I remember it was Coach Nico, Ilie Sánchez. There was two more.
I want to say Gallagher because Gallagher kind of always does stuff like that.
I think it was Galley, and there was one more player. Was it Dessler? No, there's no way.
No, it was Dessler.
It was Dessler, right? It was.
Dessler. I remember that now.
But we need more of that. We need more of that, especially in that sped up season. I think fans would really appreciate that.
I think the interesting thing about the sped up season, especially from a season ticket holder perspective, is am I going to have to buy that as a separate season? And then it's like 6 months and I have to buy again in June or July for the next season? Or is there going to be some kind of like 18-month deal where I would get like the sprint season through all the 2028 regular season as part of one package? I'm interested to kind of see how that gets divided up. I'm also interested to see if we get like a kit for the sprint season, like a special like one-off like sprint season kit would be really cool. and then like go into like the
It's
regular kit.
funny.
I'm not sure if Adidas has enough time for that. It takes them 2 years to come
We
out with
hey,
their, but
we
we can
can't get
see.
ahead of them. We can't get ahead of Adidas and MLS. And Andy told Alex, he was like, bro, this is where I stop. I can't get ahead of them. We were trying to we were saying, hey, will this change affect the release dates of jerseys? We know that we're getting new jerseys. If I'm not mistaken, 2 next year, the alternate kit and the new away kit. Armadillo goes
Yeah.
away. So we're trying to get the timeline. But he was smart. This was one of Andy's best performances, I must say. He was on point. He said I'm actually not going to get ahead of myself and Adidas, so he doesn't know the timelines there. But he did say that it's not official yet, but he's confident that Austin will be in the Leagues Cup 2026. I thought that was very interesting. I'm actually excited about that. The return to Leagues Cup.
It's so MLS that we have no idea what the playoff system or who's competing in Open Cup or who's competing in Leagues Cup, and those in theory start in like 3 months.
Dude, I'm mentally preparing my brain, my mind for the next 2 years to just be insane. Insane. So I'm just getting ready for it.
Also, like a chaotic sprint season sounds so much fun. Like like whatever team wins that, it's going to be like the most important trophy ever. And if you lose it, you're going to be like asterisk.
I mean, I'm gonna still claim it as an MLS Cup. If Austin would win it, I'm gonna be like, let me get the star in the jersey, bro. Not a half star, full star.
Yeah, but like if Houston or Dallas wins it, we're gonna be like, that doesn't count.
It's like when I know it's like who won the COVID Champions League? Was it Chelsea? Oh. Chelsea won it.
It's like that, or like the Spurs won like the lockout season in '98 that only had like 50
exactly
games. Like that doesn't, like that's not a real title.
Exactly.
Like,
actually, shout out to my GB. I believe it was Chelsea that won it. And every time that we bring that trophy up, I always say, COVID Cup. Or was it Bayern, or was it was one of those two? But I always call it COVID Cup. COVID Cup. It's stained. COVID Cup. And he gets so mad. Shout out to my G Brian. But no, a lot of changes coming to MLS, Apple TV. Just so many things are about to be different in this league, and you know, some of these changes needed to happen way before, but I'm happy that they're finally taking place, and it is what it is at that part. You know what I'm saying? But we move on that part. But I wanted to mention real quick the academy. Just quick recap: the U13s, they won 7-2. You got Jazzy Zardes' son there in that team. Scored a banger free kick. This little kid is super talented. He's also playing up. He's like 2 years younger than these U13 kids. U14s won 5-1. Great performances from the youth. Very, very full teenagers or children, whatever. And I got a bone to pick from the ages up from the 14s. The 15s, 16s, and 18s. How are you going to let Atlanta come into your kitchen and eat up all the food? How are you going to let them come into your trap and take over? The 18s, Scott, I'm not even kidding. I'm concerned because Fest is coming up, and this is their form since the start of the season. And I'm doing it from the beginning to where we are right now. Home opener, loss. Second game, draw. Third game, they got their win. Fourth game, draw. Fifth game, loss. Sixth game, loss. Those are 2 back-to-back derby losses to Dallas and Houston, by the way. Next game, they finally won it against AC River. Everybody beats AC River. You remember Verde United or Listos United Media Cup game roster? They can beat AC River. I'm serious, bro. I'm serious. That's not a win to be happy about or boast about. And then last Saturday, they tied 2-2 against Atlanta after being up 2-0. After being up 2-0, they should have won that game and they didn't close it out. And you got Fest coming up right around the corner. And I mean, come on, boys, especially the 18s, the 15s and the 16s. I give them a little bit more of a break, Scott, because they have more time to develop. But at the 18th level, you're next up for next pro, buddy. You're about to hit the real market, man. You're not going to be an academy player anymore. You're going to be in the next pro, or you're going to go to college, or if you weren't locked in enough, it's going to be it for you. And I sound harsh. Oh God, hey man, chill out. These are academy kids, mate. You do not know what a lot of people would do to invent a time machine and go back and be in the shoes that you are in at the age you are in right now, at the moment that Austin FC is in right now. 18s, there's so much talent on this side. Why is there only 2 wins this season so far? Unacceptable. And you got MLS Next Fest right around the corner. Something's got to change. They have so much talent to be in this kind of form. And the 13s and the 14s, they're the highlight this season. Honestly, they've been just blowing teams out. The 15s, they've done really good things as well. The 16s, their form is better. But the 18s is where I'm kind of very, very frustrated and annoyed at. I do want to send some shout outs. It's not all doom and gloom. Chewy Chewy, fantastic player, right back. He was everywhere. Abner Zuniga, fantastic player, no goal or assist, but he was just everywhere. He reminds me of Isco. Chris Ayala, he got the goal. Of course, he's a star boy. Everybody knows him. John Ayala, his brother, very cool, calm on the ball. But other than that, I need to see a lot of these 18s kind of step up, man. They really need to put Austin FC on the map because Fest is coming up. I keep saying that, and you got. I see so much talent in this team, and it just gets me upset. It just does.
You're also right that like it is harsh, but when you're getting to that age and you've gone through the academy, like you have to understand that your next step is to be a professional and like or go to college and get a scholarship, which ultimately like your still goal is still to be a professional someday. Like if you are a professional, you are going to have to deal with the fact that you can be cut because they're going to find somebody better than you.
100%.
And if you look at European academies, especially, like they bring kids on trial all the time and they cycle through that to where graduating an academy, especially at a prestigious club, is an achievement in and of itself because it shows that you are able to outlast anybody else who got brought in to compete against you. And it sounds harsh because they are kids. They're 17, 18 years old, but their next step is to get paid to play a game.
Yep.
And like you said, like a lot of people would love to go back and have that opportunity. And that's why it is so competitive. And that's why it is so hard. And why ultimately, making that choice to be in the academy is a very big deal for kids to make, even at, 13, 14, 15 year age group, because they are committing to a lifestyle and a life plan at that age. And that's a really tough thing to do at 14.
And it's also not on just the players. I mean, at this level, the coaches have a lot to do with it. The people that are the bosses of the coaches have a lot to do with it. I mean, I always go on and on and on about how I want a pipeline. I want to have that academy to have Cito to the first team, and we just don't have that. It's just not there. No matter, you can go back and forth, north, south, east, west. It's just not there. A lot of the guys, they make it to the next pro team and then they get sent elsewhere to USL or on loans or whatnot. But I can't wait for the day, Scott, when there's quality coming out from the not lights out players, but guys that you see, you're like, man, this kid has something. Okay, this kid can maybe make it.
I think we're slowly getting there.
Slowly, 100%.
I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that like we didn't have old enough academy teams at the beginning, and this is one of the things that held Owen back a little bit was he actually didn't have an age group. His dad was coach in like 2021. Like he only got to play in like some matches and not others because he was too old, and like that was kind of a detriment of his development. I do think that we're starting to see that, and I think that even just seeing like CJ come from being a draft pick to the FC2 to playing for the first team and scoring really important goals. We talk about Ervin, Torres, and Micah, and all those guys you mentioned. Like there is a pipeline. It's just going to take some time, and I think ultimately one of the things Austin needs to figure out, and along with the rest of the MLS, really, is how to incorporate their next pro team into their first team, because there is that kind of age gap and there is that talent gap of do they need to do the Damian Las thing of like sending you out to loan to USL to play against adults, to play against like grown ass men, or can they just like move them up the way they did with CJ? And so that's always going to be kind of an interesting push pull and just like an organizational decision, but. Yeah, I love the idea of having somebody come through the academy at like under 13s and like runs out on Q2 at like a 19 or 20-year-old. Like that's going to be such a great moment. It's going to be such a great moment
now
of what our club is.
Now I am patient. I'm patient. I know that this is an academy level. I'm going to give these guys time, but it's just frustrating when I come on here and I got to talk about the academy and the 18s. The next guys up, they got 2 wins in 8 games. Unacceptable, bro. Unacceptable. There's players in this 18 side that won that GA Cup a couple years back. There's players that there's so much talent on this side. That's why I get so frustrated when I have to come on here and kind of rip them one. You know what I'm saying? Because guys, 2 wins in 8 games, the 18s. Come on, we have to be better than that. The academy has to be better than that at that 18 level, and it's just not good enough. You tell me, I would ask the players, is it good enough that the 18s have 2 wins in 8 games? And it is the academy. I understand. I get it. I 100%. They're not, they're not ready to go yet, but they're getting to the point, just like you mentioned, where they're about to make a big step in their career. And 2 wins in 8 games is not sitting right with me, man.
And also keep in mind that 2 of the best players from that GA Cup team aren't with the club anymore. we lost Gavin
Yeah.
to Houston because we fired his dad, and we lost the
Vigo.
player's name escapes. Yeah,
Vigo.
who went to the USL side because they needed more minutes, and so
Charleston.
I think that's always going to be like kind of an issue of going back to like how much of it is development and how much of it is trying to win, and some of that is also just the nature of the age groups. Some teams have really strong academies based on age, and
Yep.
you talk about like losing to Atlanta. Like a metro the size of Atlanta should always have a good academy. In
Yeah.
the same way that a metro the size of Houston should always have a good academy. Like
Yep.
there's no way that you can sit there in Houston and not think that you can pull, 20 kids in each age group that are not fantastic players.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
And before we leave the academy topic, kind of on that point, they are hosting a tournament here in ATX for the U12s, a new age group that they just had tryouts for. They picked like I think 70 kids. No, they took in 70 kids for tryouts. They chose like 12, I think, or 11 kids to make this team or something like that. Some very low number. But it is for the U12s and the U13s. They're going to be playing a lot of local academies. I saw Laredo Heat is in there. That's where Ervin Torres came up from. So kind of on that topic, they're expanding their reach. They're trying to find these talents from all these parts of Texas. And that's what you got to do. You got to take advantage of the landscape that you're in right now. And you're going to get some of those Abner Uzuni guys. You're going to get some of those Ervin Torreses. You're going to get some of those Chris and John Ayalas coming up through the ranks. I mean, they went to Minnesota to scout Micah, but that's when you were barely coming up and you had to scout all these kids. You have a lot of diamonds in the rough here in Texas.
I mean, why didn't they go to El Paso and scout Diego Luna? Like,
it's true.
That's the huge. That's one of the biggest misses we've had.
Yeah. Sendejas also came out of Juarez, if I'm not mistaken. Diego was telling me about that. But yeah, no, 100%. Look, I love the academy. Every chance I get, I try to go see them. It's not the easiest thing for me to do Saturday mornings, but it becomes possible to do when the first team is in off season. And I'm going to be checking up on y'all a lot more. 2 wins in 8 games, fam. 2 wins in 8 games, fam. Nah, bro, not good enough. Y'all way too good to be having that kind of record. Unacceptable. But we'll see y'all in the next one, 100%. But real quick, last 2 topics. Gonna kind of skim through these real quick. U.S. men's national team defeats Uruguay 5-1 and has everyone talking. I'm thinking this USA is finally for real. They had 9 changes versus Uruguay after the win against Paraguay. Players who didn't start: Pulisic, McKennie, obviously, Mike, Chris Richards, Tyler Adams, Weah, Reyna, Tillman, Robinson, and Balogun. This is the first time that the USA scores 5 on a CONMEBOL nation, a World Cup winning nation, and a FIFA top 30 team. And I just got really sad when I saw Sebastian Berhalter score a Toni Kroos free kick. And I was thinking to myself, man, what would I do? The things I would do to have gone back in time and convinced the people in charge to keep Sebastian Berhalter at Austin FC, because it's kind of sad to think about him being at Austin at one point and how he's not here anymore. And it got me even more sadder when I saw this quote that was posted where Sebastian Berhalter admitted that after his time in Austin, he wanted to quit the sport. He wanted to quit soccer because he thought he was the worst player on the pitch. That's heartbreaking, bro. That
is a wild thing to hear when he was on a team with Freddie Kleeman. Like,
hey, we
want to Phil West posted that thing of like where all the 2021 players are now.
Yeah, you're right.
And like you look through that list and you're like, Sebastian Berhalter, I thought he was worse than that dude. Like, ideally he'd be on a homegrown deal with Austin right now. Like, that'd be great. And also, I'm not sure that he would have developed here in the same way he developed in Vancouver. And it wasn't just Austin missing on it. Columbus had a chance to keep him around too because he was just all known here. His development's been amazing to see. And I think the big question for the men's national team is, does Pochettino have the backing of the federation to pick the best 11 guys together who can play as a team versus the best 11 names? Because I'm worried that the US is kind of falling into that like England trap of like, oh, we're just going to pick the 11 biggest names and they'll just figure it out. Well, there's a reason why England's only won one World Cup. It's because they have this idea of doing it. And it doesn't work.
You're gonna piss off Poch. He's gonna tell you, I'm the coach. I'm not the janitor. Where did that come from, bro? What?
I didn't understand that at all.
Dude crashed out.
You had the great quote on here of Marcelo Bielsa, who's done a lot for soccer in terms of philosophy and advancing the game, and a lot of great coaches have taken on like his
Mm-hmm.
ideas. Ultimately, like I've always kind of thought he was kind of overrated in the sense of his ideas are really great, but he's never able to implement them in a very
He's
successful
never
way.
really won anything though. That's why a lot of
Yeah,
people
and
call him
so
overrated.
exactly, and so he said there was a player he said that he wanted to leave LAFC because it wasn't a good enough league for me. He told me that MLS is a league that makes players lazy.
He told that to
And you look
Christian
at
Oliveira.
yeah, and you look at that roster that was on the field last night, or I'm sorry for that match. There were a lot of MLS guys on that match or
Yeah.
in the team, and guys who came through MLS academies. And I think people are understanding now that MLS is a tougher league than they think it is, and it's not necessarily because of having a lot of like, not that MLS doesn't produce high end talent, we do, but it's a physical league that's tough to play through. Like you really have to have the physicality to be able to be successful there. And a lot of coaches who aren't involved in MLS don't understand that concept and they don't get it. And it's kind of sad for somebody like Bielsa who is so looked at as a like thought leader in terms of soccer, saying things like that to players because that just goes to show that he's not paying attention to our league.
Oh man, Bielsa. What a terrible quote, mate. 100%. Christian Oliveira. He actually left LAFC too. He left
Yeah.
because of that. So hey, hopefully it works out for him. Hopefully Bielsa. He might even get sacked after this, mate. He couldn't beat Mexico 0-0, which is a terrible game. And then you get smacked by the MLS players that everybody likes to talk down on. I mean,
Yeah.
wake up call for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Uruguay needed that kind of a wake up call, to be honest. I don't think they really put out their A lineup, but getting smacked around 5-1 by essentially, like when your B team gets smacked around by their B team 5-1, that still tells you where you are as a nation.
Uruguay is a good team. They're a historic nation. I mean, they won the first World Cup, but they've been living off of hard tackles and just yellow cards for so long. I mean, people whenever teams play Uruguay, you're just scared of their roughness, their 1v1s and their duels. It's never about, ever since Forlan, I mean, has there been anybody that's been that guy in the attack for Uruguay? I mean, Luis Suarez, sure. You know what I'm saying? Suarez, but he's
I mean,
gone now.
Suarez and Cavani, but they're both
Yeah,
past it. Like
they're both
they're
past it.
starting. I mean, I think their A team probably still has Nunez up top, but
Yeah.
that's a team that I think kind of, especially in terms of population, punches above its weight.
Yeah.
Because that is a country that's just kind of like based around Montevideo. So I think it's always kind of interesting of countries that do kind of revolve around one major city, how they're able to kind of like produce more players because all the best players are constantly playing against each other, as opposed to what we have to do in the US where we have to have all these camps, all these tournaments, and everybody has to travel everywhere, and like it just isn't as efficient as some other nations.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see kind of where that happens there. I just wanted to bring up my little coffee cup before we close out on the U.S. men's national team topic. I have my passport and my birth certificate right there on my desk. I just wanted to bring them out when I'm talking about the U.S. men's national team because my boys always give me trash. They're like, oh, you're U.S. men's national team now. Nah, nah, nah. Mate, you see the cup, you see the shirt. You see, hey, 50-50 dual nap, baby. 50-50 dual nap. Mexico plays well, we talk about Mexico. USA plays well, we talk about USA. Sipping my coffee, sipping my Boston tea here. Haters gonna hate, baby. Haters gonna hate. 5-1 Uruguay. You don't exist anymore, Uruguay. You're done. You're done. You're done. They're out of here. Last topic, mate. Last topic. Before we get out of here, this can be a quick one. I just want to get your thoughts on this. Ronaldo visits the White House with Saudi Arabian prince and other super mega ultra rich people. There was a selfie that was taken. It's being called the most expensive selfie of all time. You had Infantino, Ronaldo's fiance Georgina, Elon Musk was in there as well, and some other people that I cannot name. I don't know their names, but I'm sure that they're wealthy because they were there. But a lot of money in one photo, and it didn't stop there. The Saudi prince, I don't think he's king yet, but he's prince. He was pressed on the topic of the journalist that was murdered in 2019, Khashoggi, and Trump kind of stepped in, defended it. He said, how can you embarrass our guests like that? He had nothing to do with it. Anyways, apparently Saudi Arabia is buying a bunch of jets from the United States. So this is what this is all about. But folks are saying that Ronaldo is securing his corrupt World Cup. Is Portugal going to be awarded 7 penalties? This might help out, but Scott, the world is talking about this, just like the Media Cup game rosters. I mean, what did you take out of this Ronaldo visit to the White House?
I was surprised based on his legal issues he was allowed in the country.
Same, actually.
Maybe I should be surprised based on who's president and what he has done and has been accused of and been convicted of. Infantino's made so many trips to the U.S. They even are coming up with like a sham peace award to give Trump, just to stroke his ego. And it's been weird to see how much FIFA is willing to bend to a wannabe dictator in the same way that they have bent themselves to dictators in the past. In a very recent past, even. Yeah, that's a very expensive selfie. Those are the kind of people who are surrounded. You're surrounded because they are the ones who can get the most from the Trump admin, and ultimately, like, the most important thing of any politician, it's actually really cheap to buy them off compared to what you get out of it. Greg Abbott's a great example of, you can give him $50,000 in campaign contributions, and you can get corrupt rules to make billions off of. Like, that's a really great business deal. Um, as far as like the prince, like Trump's own CIA said that he was behind the Bonesaw murder of the journalist, which is crazy to me that he would just sit there and just blatantly lie about a thing that his own people tell him. But also, like, that's where we are with him as a president. Like, that's what he is going to do. He is going to kowtow to whatever person is next to him, and that's just kind of where we are. And I'm worried that this World Cup is. Well, actually, I'm not even really worried about it. Like, I think what's going to happen in the World Cup is that the matches outside of the U.S. are going to be very well attended. They're going to have very good crowds, and the matches in the U.S. are going to be terrible, and they're not going to have a lot of people traveling to them, and they're going to see our ridiculously lacking infrastructure. There's a story about FIFA already selling parking spots for $75 to $175, and you look at like Jerry World, like there isn't public transportation in Jerry World. Like, you have to drive and park there. And it's going to be
Yeah.
an absolute nightmare. I don't think the world's ready to see how unprepared we are. And I think it's just going to be a giant mess that we're going to hear about for a month. And a lot of us who are very dissatisfied with the direction this nation's taking are just going to be like, see, we've been telling you. Like, we're not lying about any of this.
Did you see that they recently announced, I think Marco Rubio was part of this announcement, that if you buy a ticket for the World Cup, like they'll try to work with you to get a visa. Like, it'll be more easier for you to get a visa to travel to the United States. I'm serious. They said
I know you're serious. That's the problem.
that if you get a ticket, they'll work with you to create a special visa. They'll actually kind of like, they didn't really say it, but they kind of made it seem like they'll expedite it. They'll try to work with you to get it done sooner. And it's just so gross how there's things going on with ICE, and then you're pretty much like, if the people being rounded up by ICE, if they had enough money to pay for your expensive parking tickets and your expensive tickets to the World Cup, would they be being rounded up too, or do they not get the benefit of we'll work with you?
That's exactly. I think that whether this is intentional or not, and in some level it probably is, the World Cup pricing out regular fans and only making it to where, like, in a lot of countries, like, only the upper class can actually travel to afford these prices, is a very intentional way of being able to get more money out of them in terms of doing the visas and to try to control who's coming into the country. And so, I think that there's a lot of places that have like really good local communities in terms of where people have settled based on their nationality, and some of it is kind of random. Like, there's a lot of East Africans who live in Minneapolis, which is like a crazy thing to think about, and because we would not expect those things to happen. And I think we're going to see a lack of US fans who are immigrated, who are maybe first, second, third generation from these countries, who would be able to bring the passion, who are going to be excited about having their national teams playing on their home soil. They're being the fans who aren't going to be able to go or aren't going to want to go because they don't feel like the risk is worth it.
Now, just to close out on this topic, to me, mate, it did seem like Ronaldo was there for a reason. He's not there just for the photo. He's not there just to hang out and meet Donald Trump. No, I think he's, just like you mentioned, we all know about his case in Vegas with the woman. It was 2008 to 2009. And I honestly thought that he would never step foot in the country anymore because of the fear of maybe being picked up by some kind of, law enforcement agency. And I think he is looking for somewhat of a protection from the United States government to say, hey, I need a guarantee that I can come into the country with my nationality without the Saudi royal, because the Saudi royals were there for a backup. You think they're going to do anything to Ronaldo while the Saudi royals are there?
No.
When they're going to be buying hundreds of fighter jets from you? No way in hell. He's a high profile guest like the Saudi royals. And I think Ronaldo is just he's there trying to negotiate some form of protection for 2026 when he's here without those Saudi royals, because law enforcement in this country don't play around. They do not mess around with you, unless you have these certain circumstances and these sweetheart deals. But Ronaldo doesn't have that protection. And honestly, Scott, as much as I followed Ronaldo's career, that's something that I cannot get over. What that scandal, that case, it's real. It's paperwork.
Yeah.
And I think that this had a lot to do with that. I really do.
100%. I always thought the Ronaldo to MLS rumors were always just smoke, because he would never come here. Also because Sporting KC owns his discovery rights. Great job, Sporting KC scouts, to discover Ronaldo. Great job, guys. You're doing great.
Give him a raise. Give him a raise.
Give him a raise. And so, I think 100%. Like, he wanted to make sure that he would not have trouble coming here for the World Cup, and whether that's at a federal level, I think there might be other problems in terms of like state charges or local charges that he might still have to run into, because ultimately federalism makes that very difficult, and there are limitations to what the federal government can pardon and control. But he's not coming here if there's any chance of anything adverse happening to him.
Yeah.
He just isn't. He's worth too much money, and he cares too much about his ego to do that.
That would ruin his brand, his image. I mean, so many things would come crashing down. Imagine the photo of I don't know.
Like a perp walk photo of Cristiano Ronaldo
in cuffs. Oh my god! I don't even think they would put him in cuffs, but he would be escorted by some. I don't even want to speak into existence.
No, he'd be one of those people who's like in a suit, or like very like it very clearly was planned, and there'd be like a jacket over the cuffs where you couldn't see them, like
something like that. Yeah. You're right. Some like white collar crime, Wolf of Wall Street kind of prison or something. 100%. I don't. It's not even that. I don't want to damage the CR7 brand. I don't want them to come after me or anything like that.
Allegedly speaking.
Allegedly, 100% allegedly speaking. But I don't have an issue with Ronaldo visiting the White House and visiting Trump. Where my issue lies is the way that Trump said the things about the Saudi prince, or our guest, I don't know, this and that. I think it's very interesting and weird how it is. How I think Ronaldo, how it was there. It looked like AI. I didn't even think the photos were freaking real. And one thing before I forget, folks were saying that after the World Cup, should the Ronaldo to DC United rumors begin?
I don't. That doesn't make sense for anybody. Is the thing. Like, it doesn't make sense for DC. It doesn't make sense for him. And honestly, you talk about that being AI. Like, I always think of it as like Mad Libs. Like, sometimes like the news story, you're just like, I recognize all of these things. I recognize all these people and all these characters, and they do not belong in a room together. And Cristiano Ronaldo being with Musk and a Saudi prince who had a journalist killed, and Trump, it reads like a Mad Lib to me.
Well, we'll see where this all ends up. I think we got to get off of here now. Curfew time. But appreciate you, mate, for being on here. A lot of topics on this episode. I mean, so many things that we went over. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the conversation. But we'll see when we get the schedule. We got that tweet right before we started. Media Cup game this week. I'm excited to share the results. And we'll see what other Austin FC news, pieces of information comes out, maybe some transfer rumors, and we'll be excited to cover them. But have a good day. Have a good night, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation, and be safe. Ciao.